Big needles for breakfast, dinner and tea, because that's the way this life goes. Hello. Hello, good morning and welcome. Or it could be good afternoon or good evening, really. But whichever one it is that you're sitting here watching this, my name is Ingrid Wagner and this is Big Knitting. And it's Big Crochet as well, for those of you who are fans of Big Crochet too. Now, what's Big Knitting all about? So this is a general introduction to tell you what it is that we work with and what we make with the material that we use, because it's not just ordinary knitting wool. And then the textiles that you can make. And what we specialise in is making textiles for the home. So everything that you want in the home, carpets, rugs, sofa throws, poofs, everything like that, that you can make with us with the particular material that we actually use to work with. So without more ado, let me show you first of all the knitting needles that we use to work with. Here we go. Here's the biggest pair that we use. This is the 1.2 metre needles, and we use these if we want to make something like the rug that you can see on the floor down here. So a big room rug. If we want to make a medium rug or a sofa throw, then we go to this size needle. And it's simply to do with the width of whatever it is that you're making. Now the needles themselves are made of hardwood, and they are, I'm very pleased to say, made in the UK and locally by a Staffordshire wood turner. We're based in Milford in Staffordshire, just down the road from Shugborough, and we have a local wood turner who makes for us. The ends of the needles, they all come in different colours, as you can see, and they were inspired by the kinetic sculptor Jean Tinguely, and you can see a lot of his work in Paris, moving sculptures which are made mostly of metal, but they're all bright colours, and I love his work. So we decided to make the ends of the needles do something interesting, which I hope we have done. Lots of different colours. I think I did want these to move, but not very practical on a knitting needle, really. Okay, so that's the medium size, and then the small size, and that's for making things like the cushions. And like I said before, the width of the needle is all to do with the width of the textile that you want to make. I'll show you a whole range of the textiles in a moment. But there's something really, really important I want to say on these three sizes of needles that we use. When people do, I call it small knitting, knitting with ordinary size needles and a thread of yarn for making clothes. And that's actually what the needles were built for making clothes. Now, people who do small knitting, if they want to make anything bigger, like a blanket, you'll get the inevitable squares, which are then sewn together to make the bigger textile. And with the best will in the world, most of them are always going to look homemade. And actually, Matisse would have killed you if you'd done that, because it's a practical decision, it's not a design decision. And the design decision would mean that you have to look at the tools that you're using and make the tools fit for purpose. Now, the small needles are fit for making clothes. They do a great job. But the little needles won't do anything more than that. They're not meant to. And if you do want to do something more, you've got to make your needles bigger, and that's exactly what we do. Now we've got those three sizes, all with different coloured tops, so you can choose what coloured tops you want, because it should be fun at the same time, shouldn't it? So those three size needles. Now, because we're talking about making big textiles, if you find that you are going to have a problem with the weight, or that you like working with circular needles anyway, look what we've got. So big circular needles. And these were designed for use for a sleeping bag, which I'll show you in a moment, and a knitted poof as well, which is knit in the round. And also because I know that some people live or die by these circular needles, it actually distributes the weight of the knitting, so you're keeping it just sitting in your lap. So if there's something heavy like a rug that you're making, then you can use these circular needles. So that's a good idea. Anyway, you can knit in the round, but you can also knit what I call backwards and forwards knitting on them. So there are those as well. And for the crochet buffs out there, okay, so big crochet hooks, and they're a great size as well. And it's simply because I want to see something growing quickly. I want to see results. And you'll see when I show you the yarn that we use why we do get results. But first of all, it's the tools that we use. So a big crochet hook, and also big Tunisian crochet hook. This actually means that you can do ordinary crochet, or you could do the Tunisian crochet as well. And again, I'll show you the textiles that we make with this particular one in a moment. But first of all, what I'm going to show you is the yarn that we actually work with. So you'll know the second reason why we call this big knitting and big crochet. First of all, to do with the tools, and secondly, to do with the yarn. Right, so if we're making rugs, and you need a heavyweight yarn, you don't want that rug to move anywhere. It's actually going to stay. So I would say never put any knitting yarn on the floor, but use a thicker and heavyweight fabric, and that's exactly the sort of thing. Now over here you can see there's a whole trunk full of yarn, and all of this yarn here are the yarns that you can choose from. Now, what do we actually use? It's the salvage of industrial weaving, which would otherwise just be thrown away as waste, and it comes into the studio in all sorts of great big bags of tangled colour, and then my yarn winding team turn it into these lovely balls of yarn, and turn them into 500-gram balls of yarn for you to use and to make your textiles with. Now that's the heavyweight yarn. Now the medium weight yarn, which is a slightly less heavy weave, is this one, and as I say, all of it is the selvage of industrial weaving. It's 100% wool, the whole lot, and it's no longer needed by the mills after weaving has finished. So it's a waste product, really, as far as the mill's concerned. But as far as I'm concerned, and as far as you're concerned, it's actually brilliant for making all sorts of household textiles, because if you put them with big yarn, with the big needles, you get big results, and you get them very, very quickly. So that's the medium yarn. Now, what about when we have sofa throws, which is something which needs to be, a much lighter textile, and this is where we have, this yarn here is a much, much lighter weave. It's still wool, but it's a much, much lighter weave, and it produces a fabric which is very, very flexible, and it's got a lot of drape in it as well. So that's the fabric. We call it the summer yarn, and it's used for sofa throws, and this one also is put with the sofa throw. This is brilliant because this is the salvage of men's suiting fabric, would you believe? It's still wool, but it's very, very fine. I think the guys, the mills who made it, UK manufactured, which is brilliant. I think they supply Savile Row or somewhere posh like that. And we get the salvages of it. And it's beautiful. It's really, really lovely. Actually, and as I'm going to show you all of the textiles, let's start with the sofa throw, because I can show you how this actually knits up. Oh, here we go. Right. So, there we go. That's the kind of drape I was talking about. So it's really, you know, you wouldn't put it on the floor, hopeless as a rug, but actually great as a sofa throw. And this fabric here is, there we go, that's the knitting yarn that's actually made that particular one. But you could, if you wanted, have a pink in it, or have a blue in there. And there we go, that's the white fluffy yarn, and that's how it actually knits up. And the same with the charcoal grey, and that knits up brilliantly as well. Of course, you could have the whole of the sofa throw in, there we go, you could have it completely fluffy and hairy, and it's beautifully soft. It's absolutely lovely. So if you do want to do that, then you can. Right, now you'll notice I said we could do this, or you could do this, and that's exactly what I mean, because what we do is kits in every single textile, which I'm now going to show you, so that if you decide that you want to make using the big needles and the big yarn, and you can decide exactly what it is you want to make, and you can decide what colours you want, which to me is the exciting thing, because actually when we get the material in from the mills, I don't know what's going to come in. I don't know if this colour will ever be repeated. I don't know if we'll ever get more than one ball of this. So the best place to see the textiles is either at the studio or at the shows, and you'll find all the information on ingridwagner.com. We have a full online shop, and there's a whole list of shows, and we do those all around the UK. We do workshops as well, and we do talks. I say we, that means I do talks and do shows all around the country, and then we have the backup help on the shows and with the yarn winding itself. But let me show you exactly what it is I'm talking about when we're talking about big knit textiles and we're talking about big crochet textiles, because this is so exciting. And one of the main reasons is that for me it gives me direct access to colour. When my mum taught me to knit when I was little, I got really I think I couldn't get on with the patterns. I just lost my place in them, and I seemed to spend more time actually translating the abbreviations than I did doing anything else. And I couldn't play with the colour because I was so busy trying to follow this pattern, which I got lost with. So it didn't work for me. It only began to work for me when I found bigger needles. And it really began to work for me when I found this fabulous yarn. Fell over it by accident, and the rest, as they say, is history. So putting the two together, we use very, very easy and straightforward patterns, and you'll see when we see the textiles how simple and straightforward it is. And what does the work for you is the yarn, because the colour and the pattern is already there. Right, okay, so you've seen the sofa throw. I should put that back in its place. Everything should have its place, and that's one's. Right, okay, so let's do rugs to begin with. Okay, so here's an example of the rug that you can make, and this is made on this size needle. And remember I said that the width of the needle was very, very important. And there you go, there's the width. Obviously the knitting comes out just a little bit longer than the needle, but there's the width that you need for making the rug, and that's why we use these. The same needle that's used for the sofa throw. So if, for example, you buy a rug kit, you've already got the needle then for the sofa throw. Right, okay, and that's made using 2 lots of yarn. So 4 balls of yarn go into making this rug, and it takes just 4 hours to knit. It's just brilliant. You can sit down at 6 o'clock in the evening, by 10 o'clock you've got a rug. And you can put it straight down on the floor. There's no backing, no sewing up of anything together, and it's got a great little border on it which is done as you knit, and you can choose whatever colour you want. So any of those colours, if you decide you want a lime green, a red and a turquoise rug, you can have it. Down to you to choose whatever colour that you want in particular. Alright, so that's the rugs. You've seen the sofa throw. Boop, ba-doop, ba-doop. Here we go. So, cushions, an example of something which is done on the small needle. This has got about 3 different colours in it. But again, just like the rugs, this is knit 1 row, purl 1 row. Okay, it's both the same. If you don't knit, that might sound gobbledygook to you. Please don't worry, because in other programs I'm going to do a learning to knit right from the beginning. So please don't worry if 1 row knit, 1 row purl sounds to you gobbledygook, because when you watch the program on learning to knit, it won't. You'll understand it completely and you'll be able to do it. Right, so that is a 1.5 hour knit. That's the whole thing. Okay, now people say to me, oh yeah, well it must be 4 hour knit for the rug and 1.5 hour knit for the cushion for you, because you've been doing it for about 4 years. The nice thing about big knitting as opposed to little knitting, where little knitting has fast knitters and slow knitters, big knitting is a great leveller, because you cannot knit quickly on these needles. They're too blooming big. So everybody has to knit at the same kind of speed, and that's why we can say 4 hours to do the rug, 1.5 hours to do the cushion, 4 hours to do the sofa throw, and next let's do the knitted poof. All right, 2.5 hours to do the knitted poof, and this is made with the medium yarn. You don't want a thick yarn on the knitted poof. There will be a separate program on making the poof, as it's made on the circular needles. And there's about 3 different colours in this one. This was featured in a national magazine. I think it's Let's Knit magazine last month, and this is brilliant. Not only because it just takes 2.5 hours to make, but because inside it there is a single duvet. So it's absolutely brilliant in terms of storage. And there's the a piece at the bottom which is left open, and you can stuff whatever it is that you want into there. I've said we've used a single duvet, which is great storage, because blimey, the number of times you must put those duvets into the airing cupboard and they just won't stay where you tell them to stay. They just won't. So here's a good space saver. You can put anything soft in there. You can put your spare jeans, your spare socks, your spare kids, your spare boyfriend, husband, somebody else's husband, you know, whatever you want to do. Put them all into that poof and sit on it. And it's brilliant. And it's wool, you see. It's lovely and soft. And because it's a woven fabric, it's very hard wearing. A woven fabric that you are then putting through another textile process. So it's absolutely brilliant. Now, that's made on the circular needles, and here's another thing which is so exciting. That is made on the circular needles as well. And this one is the start of a sleeping bag, or we've called it a sleepover sack. And sorry we haven't got the complete one to show to you, but that's because every time we make one to put on the stand, somebody buys it. It takes around, let me see, it's 5 kilos of yarn, so that's about 10 balls of yarn. So it's around 6-7 hours knitting, something like that all together. And we do a size for 5 to 7-year-olds, and then 8 to 11-year-olds. But actually, what we find is that teens, students are buying them, and even 20-somethings are buying them, because they're wool. They're brilliant to actually sleep in. They're warm. And when we did a focus group in a school when we were doing these, and one of the children scrambled inside it. He was about 10 years old, and I said, "What's it like in there?" And he said, "It's lovely and warm," which we expected. And then he paused and said, "And I can see out, and no one can see in," which I thought was brilliant. So big kids feel like that as well, but you can actually, this knits up, you can see how it's knitting, and it will go whoop, all the way up to here. And if you happen to have made one for your 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old, and they happen to put on a spurt in the summer and grow, it doesn't matter, because all you do is undo the casting off row and you knit another inch or whatever. So so there you go. So the sleepover sack. Now, I told you about the cushion earlier on. Now this seat pad, big knitting seat pad, is just 45 minutes to knit, and that's done with the thick yarn that I showed you at the beginning, and that's done on the small needles, again because of the size. 45 minutes to knit, and that literally is just a knit stitch. So seat pad, brilliant for putting onto your kitchen chair or on your bench outside, anywhere where there's a hard seat really. So there you go. That's the seat pad cushion. Now on the crochet side, in case you thought we'd forgotten you crocheters, right, here we go. So crochet, the crochet poof, put your feet up at the end of the day on this, and it's a 2-hour crochet using, and crocheters will know what I'm talking about, but I am going to show this stitch in the later program, double crochet, and that's all we use. I'm not a dyed-in-the-wool crafter, excuse the pun, so I just sometimes will learn one stitch and repeat it. I'm brilliant at 1 row knit, 1 row purl. I'm brilliant at double crochet, and I don't know anything else. That's it. Don't ask me to get complicated with it, because what will do the work for me is the yarn and the colour, and that's what will do the work for you as well. So again, you can put anything soft inside there. Great sock storer. So put your feet up on that at the end of the day. Or, here we go, a cushion, crochet cushion, and again it's double crochet. And look at the difference, you see, it's just the colour. It's the colour that's doing it. It's fabulous. So that is a 1.5 hour crochet. And then this one, which is a great hit. Now, I'm going to pull this up here. Now that one is done with the double crochet hook. Big crochet poof, and the knitted poof had one single duvet inside it, and this one's got 2 double duvets in it. Brilliant, absolutely fabulous storage. And again, it's a double crochet stitch done with this hook, and it's 5 balls of yarn and takes about 5 hours to do. Okay, and again it's made with there we go, a gap in its bottom, so that you can stuff it with whatever you like, but in this case it's got 2 double duvets in it. Right, okay, that's on the crocheted side. So blimmin' big. There we go, that's on the crochet side. 2 more things I need to tell you about. One which I've missed out on the knitting side, and this one is done again with the small knitting needle, and it's a bolster cushion knit with 2 balls of the thick yarn, And it's absolutely brilliant. You know, when you're sitting up in bed or you just need something to bolster your back, just put it against your back and you can lean back and it will support the lower part of your back. So that's extremely useful. And here's the second order of the day for you guys who crochet. Remember I showed you the Tunisian crochet hook? Right, well, here we go. And this is a bed runner. It's made with 5 strands of wool yarn, cream yarn, put together, because I think this shows particularly well on the stranded yarn. The stitch doesn't show up so much with the recycled yarn, and it's made with the Tunisian crochet hook, and that's how wide you can go with it basically. And again, there's another program that will show you exactly how to use the Tunisian crochet hook if you're not sure, and if you want to be the proud owner of. That's a single bed runner, but you can do it as a double bed runner. Okay, right then, what I'm going to show you is just 4 bags. Okay, we bought these at last Christmas before last, and they're not interior textiles, so please excuse me, but they work really well and they're fun to do. Okay, so crocheted. So brilliant little crochet bag. This is an hour to do and takes 1 ball of yarn. And again, you choose whatever colours you want. That's the first crochet bag. There we go, you got there. All right, the second one, great for crochet satchel bag. So it'll go over your shoulder and just does up with a couple of buttons, and it's the size to get files into. And guess what? It's the double crochet stitch. Double crochet all the time. There's a line from Dylan Thomas came into my head then. Not that he talked about double crochet. It's one of the characters who talked about organ all the time. This is Morgan. It's organ all the time with him. It's like double crochet all the time with her. Okay, there we go. For those of you who are Dylan Thomas fans, you'll know what I mean. If you're not, please don't worry, because we're going to go straight on to, there we go, knitted bags. Right, now this is the big bag. This takes 2 hours to do, and 1.5 hours for the small bag. Both shoulder bags, and we supply the button with this one. An hour and a half to do, and just over an hour and a half to do. You can make 2 small ones or one big one. Now, what's really important here is the stitch that we use, and again I'm going to be doing something on the actual stitch used. We tried it in stocking stitch and we tried it in the ordinary knit stitch, and there's too much stretch, and what you don't want in a bag is for things to be falling out of it. So what we did was bring together a linen stitch which looks like a woven stitch, and there's no stretch in it. You don't have to line it. Nothing will fall out of it. And we've used this also on the chair covers. Okay, so this is the chair cover on the back of the chair. It's exactly the same stitch as the bag, and there is no stretch in it. It's called a linen stitch, and again I'll be showing you this on a separate program. So you can cover your chairs, cover your seats, which are badly worn if they are, and in any colour yarn that you actually want to make. Okay, all right, so I think that's it for the introduction to big knitting. The really important thing on this is because it's big, it grows quickly, and if your eyesight happens to be failing for any reason whatsoever, you can feel the stitches. So if you've had a lifetime of knitting and you can no longer do it, then worry not, because the size of the stitches on here means that you can actually see them without your glasses and with any failing eyesight you might have, and you can feel what's happening on here. So please do look at the different programs which show you how to make different items with big knitting. One little boy said to me once, "Can I knit in the dark?" And I said to him, "Well, why? Tell me why you want to learn to knit in the dark." And he said, so that when my mum puts the light out, I can carry on knitting, which is brilliant. So, and the answer is yes, you can knit in the dark, because it'll just work wherever you are. You can knit watching television, knit in the dark, knit anywhere and everywhere. And actually, if your social life isn't very good, if you take a pair of these big needles and you're knitting on the train, buy a ticket to anywhere, go and sit on the train, and you will find you have made so many friends in the matter of a couple of hours. So great for your social graces as well. Okay, so that is the general introduction to big knitting. Thank you very much for visiting, and please visit the other programmes where you will be able to see how to make some of the items that you've seen here. Thank you and goodbye. For breakfast, dinner, lunch and tea. How about dessert? That's free to finish. Sweet as sweet can be. Big knitting. I could eat spoonfuls of it every time.